Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review Talking Heads' 1986 album, True Stories. It went along with a movie made by the lead singer David Byrne, so it's a bit of a soundtrack, but not exactly, so it's good, but not great. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist, 5 out of 9, so 1 over half. This album's good, but it's not super outstanding. It's a little boring in places and doesn't really have a super innovative style. Parts of it sound very traditional late 80s pop, while other parts are kind of so out of there that they don't really make sense, so wacky that they don't work. Despite being a movie soundtrack, the flow is not great, especially on side 1. It kind of starts strong, but doesn't really go anywhere. Side 2 is a little bit better, starting upbeat with Wild Wild Life and then slowing down into eventually City of Dreams, which is an alright finish, but it's still kind of missing a middle section. Side 2 overall is probably slightly better, but in terms of quality, both sides are pretty evenly matched. The few good tracks here, about half of the album, is pretty good, but most of them, even the good ones, don't really stand out. They all sound pretty kind of similar genre-wise. There's definitely still the rock and new wave elements, but it's not strong enough to make the songs distinct or particularly impressive. It's mostly sort of middle-of-the-road pop stuff, which is pretty disappointing for the band. There was only one single released before the album, Wild Wild Life, which was the only big hit here. Additionally, it's my favorite song here, definitely the best one. None of the other songs have the same level of catchiness and consistency. Most of them here are just kind of good, but not super impressive. I ranked this album 5th out of the 7 Talking Heads albums I've heard so far, only above their first 2 albums from 1977 and 78, mostly due to the experience and just general increase in quality from there. This is definitely one of their weaker albums, though. It sounds like just like extras that didn't make the cut from their previous album, Little Creatures, which is still good. It's just not as interesting as most of their other work. Even Fear of Music and Remain in Light, despite sort of their their issues, are more interesting than True Stories, which mostly just does kind of a late 80s pop that's fine, but not impressive. Certainly, it's not close to beating out their previous 2 albums, Speaking in Tongues and Little Creatures, which are both come together a lot better and sound a lot more interesting. Additionally, this album doesn't take my top spot from 1986. That stays with Queen's A Kind of Magic, which is definitely better than True Stories in consistency, quality, and just being interesting music. Next up is Duran Duran's 1995 cover album, Thank You. This is one of the worst albums I've ever heard, so should prove to be a pretty interesting review. Stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.